The half-time break has come to an end, and we've heard the exciting news that Stevie G is now the new head coach of Aston Villa. And much like Christian Purslow, Nazif Suarez and Wes Edens, Baz has done a little bit of review of our first half performance and decided to keep myself, Dave from the Irish Lions, and also Russ from the Cayman Villans on for the second half, so that we can have a chat about how we've done so far this season, including who our player of the season is, our highlight of the season, and your highlight of this second half, spoiler alert, is going to be Dave's Emmy dancing. Get on it, have a little watch, let us know what you think.
So obviously what we were talking about last time with Dean Smith going means that the season hasn't gone particularly to plan so far as a result of having to lose a manager. But apart from, I suppose, the obvious of 16th isn't where we'd want to be at this stage of the season. Dave, how have you found the season so far? Is it roughly where you thought we'd be, a lot lower in terms of those expectations? Or was it, with the amount of injuries that we've had so far, perhaps almost less of a surprise that we are where we are?
I thought we'd have a difficult start to the season. I really did, with the whole Jack saga and the new signings coming in relatively late, and even with the Euros and the Copa America and the players kind of some getting back quite late. I kind of thought the likes of the Brentford or whoever, those early games that we did poorly, and they'd hit the ground running. Who did it first day of the season? Remind me again, was it Brighton?
Watford,
that's it, stupid. I've just erased it from my brain. But so now I thought then we'd start coming good. So then when we went out and beat United, I thought, this is it. We've got in there. We've gelled. We've got a team together. And, we've beaten United without Jack. This is where we'll build. So if you asked me that 6 weeks ago, I'd say it's right where I thought we would be, and we're going to kick on. And then, of course, we've had a disaster for the last 5 weeks. So, looking at the table, it's not pretty. It is a bit nervy. Looking at the relegation zone, I presume that's what the owners are looking at their decisions. So, yeah, obviously a bit disappointed. Gotta hope that someone comes in, someone sorts out the defence quickly, and I think if we can get someone to start doing the basics right, we'll start moving up. I mean, the expectation now for the rest of the year is to get away from a relegation battle and be somewhere content and out of trouble and far away from it. So, but yeah, I suppose not surprised with a slow start, but I suppose a little bit disappointed with how it's gone recently, as I presume every Villa fan is.
No. Luckily, we've got another Villa fan right here. So, Russell, does that match your kind of feelings of the season so far? Disappointed?
Hugely so. Yeah. Right from the get-go. Expectations for the whole season. I felt progress was position 10, 9, 8. That's all I wanted. Losing your best player and the influence that he has or had with us on any game and continues to have, looking at his stats. Quite brilliant stats of the number of times per 90 he gets the ball into the box. He's way ahead of any other player in Europe. Absolutely. Losing that, my expectations were 10, 9, 8. Then I think we got those first two games that we just referenced. That's at least 3 or 6 points less than I expected. And it's just been, the season has been stop, start, stop, stutter, and then stop. It's that, and it's been so frustrating. Firmly believe with so much quality in that team that we would still finish at least halfway and possibly 10-9. But despite losing Jack, so disappointing. The owners, we've spoken about in a previous episode. The owners, have expectations far higher than that, but I didn't think that was realistic. To my mind, just finishing 10-9-8 was good, and we build and go again, just exactly like. So I'm agreeing with Dave essentially. And some of those results in those matches so far have just been so below par.
Yeah, but I think the Grealish factor has obviously been a cloud overhanging Villa, really, and the post-Grealish era. A lot of talk has been made in terms of selling one player and bringing 3 in. We brought a couple of us in as well. Will, how have you rated the transfers so far? I know it's only 11 games in, so a bit early to tell. Are there any who you're thinking, yep, they're definitely going to be making an impact in the team for years to come? Or conversely, are there any who you're thinking, oh God, we've wasted the money on them already?
And to be honest with you, and you'll notice maybe that there's some background music now. I do apologise. It's my neighbour. He's awful. Anyway, for me, the person who really stands out of all the signings was Danny Ings more than anybody else, because of him being the goal scorer that we've been crying out for, really. I still think that he's got a lot left to offer us. I think when he gets a proper run in the team and he goes up front as the one and only striker, which I think he should be, I think from there we'll see the best of him. I really do. The other ones, Twanzebe probably hasn't done as well as we would have liked. Buendia has shown glimpses. You know, I think he's more than a flash in the pan. He's shown glimpses, and Bailey will hopefully go on to do great things for us also.
I mean, you're a fan of Ings, Dave? Is he looking like the 25 million man so far? I know there's been a few kind of injuries recently.
The strange thing is that it seemed to disrupt Ollie Watkins a bit, knocked him out of his stride. The 2 up front doesn't seem to suit Ollie. Now, what does that mean? Do we put Ollie out wide? Do we drop him? I don't know. I mean, certainly that time when Ollie came back from injury, we didn't seem to have the 2 up front nailed down yet. So, however, that's not Danny Ings' fault. I mean, he hit the ground running. So it was great to see, and if we can have a 20 goal a season man going forward, that'll be amazing. So obviously he's missed a couple of games, so hopefully he'll be back as soon as possible. I think Danny Ings is, as Will said, is probably the best of the signings. I'd hope that, I mean, a lot of people in the Irish Supporters Club are very worried about Buendia. Does he look like, the big money signing? And obviously the answer is no, not yet. But I'd hope that he settles and that he turns into the great player. He's shown flashes of it. Great goal against Brentford. Did okay second half actually against Southampton. Thought he did quite well that second half. So hopefully he'll come good. It's too early really to say. We've hardly seen Leon Bailey. I mean, he's clearly not match fit. He showed against Everton the skill he has, but he went and injured his quad kicking the ball so hard into the net. I mean, so he probably needs half a season or something to get fully up to speed. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. Is Buendia worrying you, Russell, or do you agree with Dave that it's too early?
As a generalisation, all of those players, to my mind, are all hugely talented based on either a bit of previous or the small signs, the glimpses, as you say, Dave. It's just that, and we're back to man management or coaching, the ability to get the team working together and what was the best formation has not been resolved by dear old Dino. So I wasn't unduly worried about Buendia, because if you go back, I know it's very limited opposition, but that friendly against Walsall pre-season, which I watched, his ability to thread the ball either needle shone in that. And I know he's got to do it against Premier League defenders. It's different altogether. But if he can do it, he's got that vision and it's everything else, and he will come good. So, but I say all of them, small signs of absolute quality. You mentioned it, Dave. There was Leon against Everton. We thought, great, we've got this guy. Plus, add in Leon's little cameo against Chelsea away in the Premier League. He leaves one Chelsea player on his arse, the defender, and a few other things. And it was quite brilliant. I thought, yes. And yet, West Ham and to a limited degree, Southampton, giving the ball away But I think the biggest problem was in the team has been missing Doug, somebody to control the ball out, give that out, that enables the players to have an extra bit of space to actually, for be that Buendia, Leon, or whomsoever. But, I'm not unduly worried about any of them. But I think we've got the talent there, the right person picking the right formation, whatever that might be. I'm no genius.
Though I suppose, well, no genius, but I'll throw that straight back onto you, Russell. What is the right formation for those players that, well, ones who are already at the club and ones that are brought into the summer to get the best out of it? Is it the 4-3-3 we've gone back to recently in what we played last season?
And I agree with what's been said about Danny Ings, but he was an expensive replacement for Ollie that didn't need replacing. But then Ollie was injured in the pre-season friendly, was it? And he didn't play. I forget which one it was. We were at home against the Italian side, and he didn't play against against Watford, and that was resolved. Oh, it's easy. We got Ings to come in, and we didn't need a replacement for Ings. What we did need was another CDM or players wide who would have that ability to hold the ball up. So everything was great for Ollie last season. And so why fix something that's not broke? Ollie's work rate, we all know about that. He got enough goals. And I thought he would push on this season. If I was critical of Ollie last season, I'd say his conversion rate wasn't as good. But then I cut him some slack by saying, Ollie, it's your first season in the big league. You'll come good next season, 20 goals. You've got to be our first Premier League 20-goal striker. And yet he's still missing chances, Ollie is. So there might some, whether injury-wise or in his mindset, that's not quite right. So, I'd stick with just Ollie up front and then base our new talent that we've got. Who's the most obvious one to carry the ball into the box, relieve pressure on the left-hand side? Is it Leon Bailey? Do we criticise him for not tracking back to cover target? I don't know. And again, the back four was so solid for a large proportion of last season, but we revert to a back five when I do believe, as much as I think, Matthias, the Polish Cafu, may well be. If we've got anybody you want to say as a player of the season so far, it's Matt. Cracking goal that he scored. Could have had a couple of others from similar circumstances with better shooting boots on. But I don't believe in a back five that has cash and target, because I don't think they're incredible wing backs up and down in the likes of a TTA or I don't know, pick any other. Reece James, outstanding wing back. I don't believe we had that. If you want to really go back five, invest on some outstanding wing backs, or use your back four that you used last season.
A back five for you, Dave, or is the reversion to the back four music to your ears in terms of the recent switch in the Southampton game?
It's funny. I was in with the Villans watching the Everton game in Temple Bar, and it was 0-0 at half time, and I could see Cash and Target pushing forward, and I said, we're getting caught. If Everton had no strikers that day, I said at half time, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, neither of them were playing, and I said, this isn't working, we're going to get destroyed. And then, of course, we come out and win 3-0, and the next week we beat United, and I thought, well, I was wrong, but even then, I kind of, obviously now I feel my thought was proved right, and we were very lucky against Everton that they didn't have a striker on the pitch to make us pay. So I don't think the back five has worked. It just hasn't. For that and that whole wing back thing, maybe is it that they keep on getting caught? They're not great at tracking back. I don't know. Would they been told by Dean to push forward? I just don't think we looked particularly settled. It's so easy to say that when you've lost 5, but I think we got to go back to 4 at the back, and maybe maybe have a bit more in midfield. I mean, obviously, Russell, you mentioned Douglas Luiz not being there. We've really missed him not having that holding, centre mid, because someone like that will take the pressure off the defence as well. So I think we should go back to a back four to answer your question, Baz, and we just got to get back to doing the basics right. We've been leaking too many goals. It's not. I mean, West Ham losing 4-1. We shouldn't be losing 4-1, maybe 2-0 or 2-1. Arsenal are 3 goals down, and after an hour, we're leaking too many goals. So I know it was only the one against Southampton, and you could say we went over 90 minutes without conceding, but still, we gotta just go back to basics. So I would say stick to 4-4-2. There's a quote, isn't it, from the Ricky Tomlinson thing when he's doing his interview.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna go 4-4-2. I don't know if you have the little explicit sign, but you know what I mean. I think we need a bit of that.
Yeah, if that's the first press conference of our new manager, then I'm all board for it. I mean, regardless of whether if it's good enough for Southampton 4-4-2, then it's good enough for us. Though, Will, in terms of obviously you manage at a very high level on a weekend with your team. In terms of the tactical things that you've seen this season, are you hopeful in terms of going back to 4-3-3 may potentially solve some of the issues we've had with the 3-5-2? Because one of the things for me has been the lack of pressure we've been putting on the ball in terms of when we played 5 at the back. We've allowed teams onto us, which, as you said, Dave, has contributed us to shipping goals all over the place. Does 4-3-3 make us more stable in your view, Will?
For 4-4-3, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. We need all the players we can get currently, so yeah, let's whack an extra one on there.
The 5-3-2 experiment didn't work and it didn't work mainly because Ings and Watkins weren't linking up as well as they should have been with each other. The 3 midfielders at that time, McGinn, Ramsey, Luiz, you look at them against Man United and they played really well. They, Douglas Luiz in particular, some of the through balls he was playing were fantastic. But for me, I want 4 at the back, really. Mings and Konsa would be my first 2 choices. I'd have Kashi at right back. Left back still up for debate, to be honest. I'm not the biggest Target fan. As long as he's trying, he's putting in 100%, then he's got my support. I'd probably go for Young at the moment over him. But it'd definitely be a position I'd look to strengthen in the window. Hopefully, whichever manager comes in knows a good left back, maybe Favre brings Guerrero. We'll see. For me, if you're going to play 4-3-3, it's going to sound a bit weird because I've rated his season so far. I don't think Douglas Luiz should be that the furthest one back, because I think Douglas Luiz is more of a deep-lying playmaker. And what we probably need, because of how adventurous our fullbacks like to be, we need someone who's a bit more like Eric Dyer when Pochettino had the 4-3-3 for Tottenham. Dyer used to slip in between Alderweireld and Vertonghen, and Rose and Walker would go bombing up the field. And they were arguably 2 of the best fullbacks in the Premier League at that time. Is Nakamba good enough to play that ball-winning role and slip in between the 2 centre-backs? Probably not. He tries his best. He's been one of our best players the last 2 games, but just not doing enough for me. I think we've probably got to be a bit more adventurous. Douglas Luiz has shown he can play any number of central midfield roles, whether that's a box-to-box centre midfielder, a proper centre midfielder who gets on the ball and knocks it round, stays around the centre of the park, or is that deep line playmaker. I'd go 4-2-3-1, and I'd have Luiz in alongside either Ramsey, who I think has been phenomenal this season, or it's time to give Morgan Sanson a go, and say to him, if you're not happy that you haven't been playing and you're quite happy to lob water bottles at your ex-manager, then come and show us what you can do. It also gives us a little bit more creativity up front. It allows someone to come in as a cam, whether that's Bailey, whether it's maybe Traore goes there. Buendia, I think, could do it with a bit more game time. You've also got Carney, who's very highly rated, and if you're good enough, you're old enough, is the old saying. But it also allows us to put more pressure on And you're spot on, Baz. We haven't been pressing. We didn't really press Southampton too much either at the weekend. It's not just the 5 at the back that's been the problem with that. It's just been the lack of wanting to get the ball back high up the pitch. And last season, it's something that we did brilliantly under Dino. It really felt like every player wanted to fight for that ball. They hunted in packs. Grealish led by example. Watkins did, as did a lot of the other players who are in that starting lineup. So for me, 4 in defence, 2 in centre mid, and then your 3 attacking outlets behind. And I'm really sorry to say, but I'd go with Danny Ings every time. Watkins, completely agree. Fantastic season last season. And I thought, what a waste of money 28 million is. He's not going to do it. It's going to take him some time. It seems to be second season syndrome for him at the moment, though he did have the unfortunate injury as well. He seems to have been found out a bit because he likes to pull over to the left channel like a Thierry Henry and cut back inside. I think Danny Ings is probably what we need a little bit more of at the moment. But saying that, Watkins has got 2 goals last month. So he's obviously doing something right. Only time will tell. We've got an abundance of talent there. We just need the right manager and right coaching staff to come in and unlock it so that we can start to get back up to the top end of the Premier League, which is where we want to be and we've been away from for far too long.
So we've got the new manager coming in, and some of the coaching staff are still going to be around from the current regime, you'd think, or at least somebody to show them where the canteen is. New manager asks, who has been the best player for Villa this season? The coach or whoever's round says, oh, Mr. Insert name to be determined. Best player for Villa so far has been Dave. Who's been the best Villa player for you so far this season?
Can you see this on the camera? I don't know, could you see that there?
We couldn't. I mean, our fans enjoyed what they could see, but they couldn't see the name.
I was trying to do a little dance there to the Man United fans. I mean, it's Emmy, you know. I mean, just for his little performance at Old Trafford, for nothing else, I gotta love him for that. Yeah, I mean, even against Southampton, I thought he made a couple of brilliant saves to keep us in it. West Ham game, the flights caught up with him. I think, you know, there's that Rice goal shouldn't have gone in, but I think overall he's our best player. Now, it says something about the team when your goalkeeper's your best player, but I think he is our best player. Russell has already mentioned Polish Cafu, Matty Cash. He's been very good as well. But I mean, from like the first name on the team sheet is Emi Martinez, and so that's if the new coach asks me who's your first starter, who's the best player, it's Emi for me.
So how about for you, Russell? Who's been the standout performer so far this season for you, and who would be the first name on your team sheet for the game against Brighton?
I totally agree about Emi is the first name. Well, he's travelling back. I forget when I did look at it, when the Argentinian, the last international match before his flight back, whether he's got a match on the Thursday and comes back on the Friday, I can't remember now. But Will, and sorry, Dave, you said that. Will said, at least we only conceded 1 goal against Southampton, and that was down to Emi made 2 outstanding saves. One from Ward-Prowse and one from a header, I think it was Shea Adams, from a Ward-Prowse free kick or something. 2 simply outstanding. At 3-0, we were well out of it. You know, with 7 minutes injury time, 1-0, think, we could nick a point, even though we were rubbish in the first half. So credit for Emi there. I still don't. The reason I'm not going to say Emi, though, is because he set such high standards last season. I don't think he's emulated that as yet. And I would cite both of the first 2 goals, both of those goals that we conceded at the start against West Ham, not just the. I know people will say he had a load of defensive players in his eyesight for the first goal, but I felt he went down late for that one. So it's Matty Cash for me. I think his effort has been immense. And if you want to be really severely critical, yeah, Matty, he could have had 3 or 4 goals with if he was shooting straight. But the one goal he did score was stunning. So.
Though you mentioned JJ Will as somebody who's had a big impact on the team coming in this season. Has he been the most impressive for you, or is there somebody else who takes that top spot for you?
JJ would be in my top 3, definitely. Emi Martinez, I think, is our only world-class player. If I'm being brutally honest, he's the type of player who has gone and won trophies over a number of years. Unfortunately, not any with us yet, but surely that would change in due course. I think that Matty Cash has had a fantastic season also as well. But I stick with Douglas Luiz, really. I feel that when Douglas Luiz came back into the team, we saw what we missed with him being out for the Watford game, coming back against Newcastle, just dictating that play. He's got such a coolness about him, hasn't he? You know, and it's not just his haircuts and his tattoos that are cool about him. It's the way he gets the ball, he picks it up, he glides around that pitch, he hustles and bustles as well. But he's spraying balls, and I think he's going to be a key player for us. And if he continues to do what he's doing now and continues to get picked for Brazil as well, it won't be long until a couple of seasons' time, someone comes sniffing round for him. Hopefully by that time now, we'll be getting European football regularly, and he'll be saying, "No, you're all right. I've come to love the Brummie accent, so I'm going to stick around Aston. Thank you very much." So Dougie Luiz, definitely all day long at the moment.
Good. I mean, I hadn't thought of that because he's been in and out of the side, but when he's been in, it's spot on.
Well, you certainly miss him when he's out of the side as well.
I mean, so in terms of the Brummie accent, I mean, that's one of the main reasons people listen to this podcast, to be honest. Just listen to me and Will for 45 minutes in these accents. Though, obviously, Luiz is certainly somebody who has grown into the team. I mean, the first game I remember seeing him playing was Bournemouth when we first got promoted to the Premier League. It summed up where Luiz was at that time. A terrible pass across for one of the goals for Bournemouth and an absolutely cracking finish. And good for Villa over the last few years that it's been more from column B than column A in terms of more good than bad in terms of Douglas Luiz. So hopefully he will be there for a few more years to come. And we've hit upon a streak of positivity in the podcast now, nearing the end of the second of these specials in terms of the international break. So to wrap it up on a sprinting finish in terms of positivity, I was going to ask you all, starting with you, Russell, in terms of what your favourite moment of the season has been so far, and where do you think we're going to come at the end of the season?
Man United's penalty miss and the debates thereafter and fun thereafter with the Man U fans in our local pub with all the Cayman Villans. And I still believe it depends on the appointment, but let's go positivity. We'll finish 9-8-7.
Martinez for you as well, Dave, or is there another moment so far this season that's lodged in the memory?
That's Saturday night. My missus went to bed early, and she then told me the next day she could hear me repeating the little video, you know, that Aston Villa put up. The "Everybody Dance Now." I must have watched it about 40 times in a row. I just couldn't stop. So it has to be that moment. I mean, look, on another positive, just to pick another one, the Leon Bailey cameo against Everton, that was awesome. You know, he comes on, sets up a goal effectively, and then scores a stunner, and it was that moment of, yes, we've got that class player here. Hugely exciting moment. So that was a very exciting moment. In a sense, the Man United penalty miss, it's kind of more emotional because it's when it happened, it was like, oh, we've done it again. United have got a penalty. Like, Dean's given us a penalty against it. So I was going through the the wars, and then when Fernandes skied it, it was kind of a mixed.
The other best bit. Don't forget the other best bit, the shithousery with, "You should be taking this. Why aren't you taking this?" This is brilliant.
It was only really afterwards I noticed what had gone on there. So I mean, again, why I love him. So look, it is the penalty miss, but I'll give an honourable mention to the Bailey cameo against Everton and how exciting it was when that happened.
Are you completing the clean Martinez sweep, Will, or is there another memory for you that sticks out?
Well, I'm never going to forget Dave's twerking when he was saying about his favourite bit not that long ago. I'm glad that it's on video. But if I had to pick a number 2, then I would say, I mean, for me, the Martinez thing was great. He was the shit answer before. That was fantastic. But really, it's the emergence of Cameron Archer and Carney Chukwuemeka getting that game time as well against Brentford. You know, Chukwuemeka didn't set the world on fire in his debut, but he showed that there's enough potential there for him to be a key player for us. Would I pick Archer's hat-trick over Barrow as the first bit for him? No, his header against Chelsea, his overall performance, he showed that he can do it against top quality, world-class defenders. And what a finish it was. He's even got a great celebration now after his goals against Burton as well, where he does the crossbow and archery stuff. So very clever young man there. For me, it's their emergence, and I hope at the end of the season I can say the emergence of Jadon Philogene-Bidace as well, because he was on fire in pre-season, wasn't he? And I think a lot of us were hoping that he'd start against Watford. He didn't. He hasn't had the chances since, but surely it won't be long until he does get those chances. And he had a great game against Barrow as well. So the youngsters for me, mate. What about you, though? What about you?
I think picking up on the youngsters, obviously the Southampton game is going to be remembered for being the last game of Dean Smith and the first half not being a very good performance. But if you look at the bench that we had, very young bench on the whole, a lot of youth prospects who came through, you know, our youth system over the last few years. And you mentioned Archer, he got on for a cameo. So I think agreeing with you there, Will, I think that's a very positive sign for the future. I mean, everybody loves a player who's come through the system, you know, one of our own, you know, kind of that's going to get you a few points in the bank to begin with, even if talent-wise you're not as good as somebody else you could go and buy in, but we've put the time in. You're always going to get that little bit of extra support from the fans, because I think in terms of obviously 9 players on the bench, not all came through the youth system, but frantically getting the bench up in front of me now. In terms of all those players, are they all going to be in the starting 11 for Villa in a few years' time? Probably not. Are there a few in the younger players on there? I should say Ashley Young hopefully won't be in the starting lineup in a few years' time. But in terms of, are all those young players good enough? Probably not. But have we got 2 or 3 who could be in the team in a few years with a good wind and signing them to contracts at Villa going well? Absolutely. And that has been lacking from Villa for quite a few years, because you know, I think every team can point to youth players who've come through and they want to kind of bring them through, but there hasn't been very many for Villa who've actually been any good. And in terms of who anybody's wanted, I mean, Grealish is the ultimate example, you know, £100 million player who we've come through the academy. And I think that is a calling card, a beacon to other young players. They can say, well, if you're good enough, you will get in the Villa team. And, you know, Grealish is a once in a generational talent, but there's Archer, Chukwuemeka, Ramsey, both Ramseys. We've got some exciting players there. And I think, you know, it's going to take time and hopefully they do want to stay. But for me, that is a positive sign into the future, because, you know, we can always talk in terms of transfers to come in January and the summer, but we've got a good base and a good academy there. And I think that is going to hopefully stand whoever comes in as manager in good stead for the next few years. And well, I mentioned January transfer signings there. We've had the international break here. Hopefully we'll be reconvening the round table again in a few months, round about the transfer window, perhaps, to check in on how Villa are doing. Hopefully we are higher up in the table at that point and that the new manager has done well. But for our current discussions in the first round table of the season, now take this opportunity to thank Dave and Russell for joining us, and
You guys.
we're looking forward to you being back in a few months. And well, if we can sort the contracts with your lawyers and get the riders through, and if we can get the rights for the video from you, Dave, then I think we'll be doing very well. But
Nicki Minaj might be in touch with not wanting that
Yep.
copyright claims.
Up the Villa.
Yep.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Thanks, everybody.
Up the Villa.
And there you go. It's full time on that special multi-villain edition of Talk of the Trinity. Thank you to Russ from the Cayman Villans, from Dave from the Irish Lions, and I told you that dance was something special, didn't I? I mean, arguably better than Emmy's dance against Old Trafford. Maybe, just maybe, we'll do a poll. Next time on the podcast, it's going to be Baz and myself, and we're looking ahead to the Brighton game and also discussing the exciting appointment of Steven Gerrard and his backroom staff as he looks to lead the Villa on a march up the table. You, of course, will be able to watch that video on YouTube. You'll be able to listen to it on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Stitcher, Google, just by searching Talk of the Trinity. You probably found us on Twitter. It's likely where you've heard about us before. But if you haven't, or you want to tell your friends about our podcasts, about our little chat, about our millions and millions of polls, then just tell them to type at Talk Trinity and give us a follow. Likes, retweets, comments, subscriptions across all of the platforms are most appreciated. Until next time, cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. And up Steven Gerrard's fucking Villa.